Hey Dennis, today I want to share some free tips for improving your video and audio quality for YouTube videos that I've learned over the last 6 or 7 years of making videos. My video quality admittedly isn't perfect, but I think the only way to improve it another order of magnitude would be to invest in, $1,000 in equipment. And it doesn't matter that much. Really, you just need a video that's good enough, and people aren't going to be turned off by the terrible quality. These are some of the tips I've learned in no particular order. First, I think lighting and audio are pretty important. If your viewer is watching something with really bad audio or really bad video, it doesn't really matter how good the content is, people are going to click away, right? And so we want to make sure those at least pass a particular threshold. For lighting, I've found that the best solution is usually natural lighting because, buying a lot of really big, nice lights is expensive very quickly. And if you try to buy really cheap lights, they just don't put out enough, right? I've tried this plenty of times and they just don't work. Like $20 lighting stands, they don't put out enough light. It's not gonna work. For my particular setup, I have a big window in my room. The light comes straight in the morning, and so I'll close the blinds a little bit if it's too bright. And even in the afternoon, plenty of light comes through the window. And then on this side of the screen, there's just a wall, right? So there's light from over there, but it's really indirect. And you'll notice that on my face, the lighting on my face, half of my face has a little bit brighter light and half of my face has a little bit darker light. And that's because the light is coming from this side and it gives sort of a depth to the image. So I think having that sort of dispersed lighting is important. From my very cursory understanding of video and photography lighting, normally you have a primary light that's coming straight at you and then a secondary one that's sort of coming from the side a bit. And then maybe you can have tertiary sort of background lighting, right? And that's sort of what I have set up now. My primary light is just sort of ambient light from my room. The secondary light is the bright light coming from my window, sort of casting a little bit of a shadow on my face. And then the tertiary light is provided by these blue LEDs. Like you could use LED strip lighting, or you could use these thingers right here. These are actually grow lights, but they work for what I'm trying to do. Maybe don't stress so much on the lighting. You can do a little bit of adjusting in post-processing, and I'll show you that as well. But you do need to worry about where your camera is relative to yourself. So this is actually how big the video that I'm recording is. And since I'm recording in 4K, I do 30 frames per second as well, just so the video file isn't too big. I can crop down and trim out the edges later, right? And then I can center myself in the frame, or move things around in the frame. Or if I want to cast images right here, I can move my face around with all of this extra space. Also, I'm using my forward-facing camera, so I have a forward-facing camera that can do 4K, 30 FPS. I think that's plenty. Even 1080 is usually fine, right? And I'm using the forward-facing video so I can always see how I'm framed in the image. And I think that's super, super helpful. I'm also trying to look maybe not at myself as much, but more at the actual camera lens. And that will come up more in a bit later. The camera setup is also relevant to the audio quality. So I'm about 2 or 3 feet away from the camera, and it picks up high quality audio. There isn't any background noise in the environment that I'm in right now, which is convenient, but the audio is going to be too quiet. So I'll show you how to fix that in post-processing in a minute, but the distance of the camera is important. If your camera is too far away, it doesn't really matter how much post-processing you do to the audio, it's going to sound bad, right? If you have just very quiet audio and you try to boost it up, it's going to sound bad. So I would recommend maybe 2, 3, 4 feet from the camera. Same thing with the lighting. If you try to buy cheap microphones, they're going to be way worse than your phone microphone. And I'm speaking from experience. I've bought 3 different microphones between maybe $20 and $60, and all of the mics are just terrible. So if you're going to get a microphone, I would say the entry level is probably like $100 plus, and I don't think that's worth investing in. I think the audio quality from the phone is plenty. Okay, so there's 3 products that I do want to mention, all of which are free. The first one is an app called Elegant Teleprompter, but I'm sure there's a lot of other options available. And this is a teleprompter app, so you can have it in a framed window on your phone screen. Another reason why I like the forward-facing camera. And you can just read through the script, so it will just scroll at whatever speed you set through the script. One thing that you do need to make sure of is to move that teleprompter physically on your phone screen to a closer area to your actual lens. So it doesn't look like you're looking off to a distant teleprompter. It looks like you're actually looking at the camera lens. So having that in-window teleprompter as close to your camera, as closest to the camera as you can, is really important. I also do a lot of screen recordings for my other channel, and I think Zoom is plenty good for that. It's just 1080p, but it's fine, you know, it works fine. So you'll see some screen recording that I do in a second when we go through the post-processing. I also think thumbnails are very, very, very important. Canva is a really good free online program to design thumbnails. I think their text is just really nice, and the interface is just really easy to move things around, and it looks really professional. And you can look at other YouTube video thumbnails to get inspiration, but often doing things like, you know, really big 100 font text with filled in white or yellow lettering and then a black outline or a dark colored outline is really good. I think in general, having your face in the thumbnail is important. You can use big red arrows if you want to, but you know, you don't want to make it too clickbaity. There's sort of a sweet spot where you want people to click on it, but you only want people who are going to watch the video to click on it. So you don't want to be too extreme with it. The YouTube search algorithm is also very equitable. So if your title has something that you think people might search, like how to improve your YouTube video quality for free, that might be a good title to put for your video. Finally, this is the most fun part. I'm the most excited about this part. This is the post-processing step. So the audio is pretty simple, but the video is really, really interesting and makes some cool graphs. So for the audio, first you want to be using DaVinci Resolve, right? This is a free software. It's really, really, really excellent. Even the free version is excellent. I've never even had a reason to want the studio version, which is the paid version. So the free version is excellent. So in the audio, you can amplify it, right? And so your original audio should be kind of quiet, and you should boost it. In my experience, I boost it by about 10. I don't know what the units are. And then that gets me to where like the peaks of my audio are almost peaking out the sort of dynamic range. And I think that's okay. You want it to be as loud as possible without actually breaking any of those peaks fully. And then the really fun part is the color. And I think this can make a video look like a complete amateur to looking like a actual professional made the video. So the first thing that you want to do is look at the Fairlight. And so you're looking at the color. And what you want to do is you want to pull down the baseline of the sort of color graph. I don't know what any of these terms are, but you want to pull the baseline down of the color graph here, and then you want to stretch out the graph with this tool that you can see here. And then you can change the saturation up. I usually do 55. If you go too crazy with the saturation, it just looks stupid. So maybe a little bit up with the saturation, and that helps a lot too. So what you're doing there is you're basically telling the video to use the full dynamic range. So 0 to 1023, this is the, you know, the digital potential of the red, green, and blue channels. You want to use that entire range so that the whitest part of your image is true white and that the darkest part of your image is true black. And that will give you a really nice looking picture, as well as bumping up the saturation a little bit. What all of these tips and tricks will do is maybe 10x your video quality with very, very, very little effort, right? So this is fantastic. And if you really want another 10x in video quality, I think you're really gonna have to invest hundreds of dollars in audio and lighting equipment, and probably dozens of hours of time actually learning about the specifics of why what I said is true and other tools that you can use. And I honestly don't think it's worth it. I think the video quality that I make now is not a deterrent for other people to watch. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.